Got two things to say. Whoops. One, these fucking cats are plotting on my food. I can see it. Look at her. Does that look like an innocent cat to you? Yeah, that's right. Anyway, because I had three things, because that was the first one. So, figured out what's going on. So I was younger, given age and all that stuff. Don't ask about that. I'm figuring out. I gotta do it in a safe way because there are a lot of peds on me trying to figure out how to claim that age doesn't exist so they can get away with pedophilia. And like me, I'm gonna kill them. Oh, this bitch fucking added like me on me, bro. Fuck you. I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna find you. I'm gonna fucking take your life out of your body. I'm gonna take the air out of your lungs. I'm gonna fucking take the veins out of your fucking arms, like one by. I'm gonna fucking cut your arm. Oh, I'm gonna slowly slit down the arm. I'm gonna fucking study the shape of human veins, and I'm gonna fucking slit down your arm where I know all the veins to be, and I'm gonna try and pull them all out in one little structure, and I'm gonna try and hold it up in front of you. I'm gonna leave your eyes. I'm gonna leave your brain going. I'm gonna keep blood pumping through. I'm gonna make a device that keeps blood pumping through your fucking brain. And I'm gonna make you watch as I hold your fucking entire nervous system in between my two fucking fingers. Don't do that shit to me. Okay. So I'm younger. I'm asking questions about God. Everybody's saying, you need to do what God says. You need to do what God says. And God is the only thing that matters, and God doesn't need an explanation and this and that. And I'm like, whoa, hold on. So where does God come from? No one can answer that question. What is God's ultimate goal here? No one can answer that question. Why is God doing this here and saying that we need to do this, but then he doesn't follow his own rules over here? No one can answer that question. God has a way that I can't say and you just need to trust. So what's happening at this point is that I'm questioning people's God complex, which is all I've come to realize God is. They had this history of what God was and all this stuff, but God is literally just the human desire to control everything. In fact, God is the desire to control everything. That's God. It's a complex. And you can tell throughout history how God was directing people. There would be guys, much like myself, who would go around being able to say things like, think about it. We all want this. Everything that I'm saying is logical. It must be coming from God, right? That must mean that I'm the one who's supposed to inseminate everybody and spread my seed. And other guys would be like, well, how come you get to do it? I have the same desires. And he'll be like, yeah, but I'm the one who's saying it though. And I said it first, so God must have chosen me to have this knowledge. And then everybody would be like, oh, fuck, that got me. That got me. All right, you got it here. I'm spread open here. And so now that we know that God is just a control complex, and that I was questioning the control complex so well that the control complex was losing its authority over me as a child, we can say that the God complex, which was trying to protect itself, trying to understand and control everything, steered me into a state of sayability that it could use a despective strategy to corrupt any of my logical and tangible additions to physical occurrence. What this means is, at some point, the idea, the concept, which is real, of something existing, got to a point where it was existing, and then it was exploring all the information, everything that's possible, and all of a sudden there was a surge of information, a surge of logic, and it felt like it was losing control over itself. It was spreading apart, it was losing itself, and so it flexed to keep itself together. And upon that flexing, and probably doing it multiple times, it developed this strategy of creating a gate that has a small slit through it. This gate is measured physical occurrence at that time. The gate pretty much is only what's possible is this. If something is possible, it needs to physically explain itself to this point of understanding here. The initial awareness, the form of awareness that caused logical checking in the first place. Now it creates a gate to prevent itself from being pulled apart because one time, too much information, a couple of times, too much information, too much logic got in, and it felt like it was losing its control, its position of itself. Thus, the God complex is born. Now something wants to control itself. it realizes that the environment also needs to be controlled in order for it to have control over itself. A gate, physically occurring. If something is going to be real, it needs to physically explain itself to this first. Small slit that still allows it to perceive knowledge because it's trying to change the environment around it, so it has to accept a backwards exchange in the process. I fucking hate that I said that wrong. So, now we've got the structure of the God complex. Imagine a point concept flexing until there's a gate with a small slit that allows for logic to get in so that it can continue to physically occur without being physically altered against its will. God complex. Now, I question this complex. Just speaking about religion, I even go on to explore the other religions and say, hey, there's a flaw in all this. You're saying that God wants me to do this. You're saying that God wants me to do this. Just kind of seems like you want me to do this. What the fuck did you just say? Oh, this one needs to learn respect. Beat this nigga's... Okay, so continue on. I question it. I put it in a state of duress. I, myself, am causing a logical influx, a surge of tangible structure that loses its own control of itself, its own chosen position of what it is compared to the rest of the environment. Collectively speaking, the God complex, as it exists in every single human brain, begins working together to steer me into a point of sayability, using perspective, the dismissal of perspectives that justify the occurrence of an event in order to attack or limit understanding for purposeful action. Yeah, I did that right. So, now every time I say something that's logical, every time I say something that's tangible and it gets over the head of everyone, perspective. Hey, isn't he the guy that did this? I don't need to know anything else. That's all I need to know. I'm dismissing every other perspective because I was participating in causing it, because I also have God complex, which he was questioning too well. And that's all that matters. So if he's the guy that did this, and so that happened, then he's this kind of a person, and I don't need to listen to you. I don't need to respect anything else. That's all that matters. Now, every time they use this device, it immediately corrupts any of my additions of logic and tangible structure so that it can be considered wrong to accept it. Now, here I am watching it continue to attack me in live time. You should have seen when I was saying this, rehearsing it, practicing it out, figuring it out for myself. This is a picture of my food. You're getting too close to my... Look at this. A plot on my food's right fucking there. And look what she's doing, bro. She's fucking watching me, waiting for the next move. She thinks I don't know. That's what I mean. You're not fucking innocent. Anyway. Yeah, so... watching it in live time, what it does at moments where I explain away the device that it uses to trap me and cut and corrupt everything that I do, or everything that I add, it suddenly becomes stubborn, and it resets to an initial gate. And that initial gate says, nothing else is possible except for this. And if you want to be possible again, you need to physically explain yourself, not just logically, not just tangibly, but you need to make a physical explanation for why this is now possible. It resets itself back to this. And that's why every time I figure it out, every time you figure it out, it seems like you just lost everything out of nowhere. It's because you got too close to a failure of the God complex and it wants to protect itself. It's, this is all I know, this is all that matters. I'm not listening to you because what you're doing is bad. Or it doesn't make sense because this is all I know. So now, even as you explain it, even as you disprove it, even as you show it what's possible, even as you do things that it doesn't understand to its face, it'll still reset and act like those things have never occurred. Back to the initial gate that caused this sort of consciousness, the fear of losing control of self. Now you gotta re-explain everything, or you gotta fight it, be more stubborn, flex against it. So, here I am at this point where I'm keeping track of constants. I'm keeping track of how it interacts with me in live time. I'm even watching the strategies it uses with the people around me to distract me from figuring it out. I've described its destructive strategy. I described why it developed that strategy. I described why the form of sayability it has on me is not my fault, but rather its fault. Now, we're at the point of physical continuance, and this is its last strategy. What happens here is essentially a game of, yeah, if what you're saying really makes sense, then I should just fucking die right now. If what you're saying is really true, then I should just fucking crash and fall on the ground and not be able to move anymore. That's the bet it makes. But it knows that it has stored physical energy, stored physical occurrence, in which it has time to adjust to logical and tangible addition. It would be unfair if things did not have time to adjust to logical and tangible addition, seeing as there are times where we can increase large surges and influxes of new information that make too many things possible in one motion. So it uses this time that it has to physically adjust to claim, no, I'm still going and I still believe this, so therefore you're wrong. I'm still going, I don't believe what you're saying, so therefore you're wrong. But you'll notice that they get tighter, they get tired faster. It feels like they walk more stiff. They have to think more stiff. They have less malleability in their ability to respond to the environment. They restrict themselves. And then they play short perspective games, which, if a perspective is this long and you go all the way to only being this short, then yeah, you can probably come up with a bunch of interesting shapes to confuse and daze people with. But you only have as long as the perspective was, which is why it loops. So yeah, just figured out my innocence, figured out how to say it. Oh, and even then, it's now trying to come up with a new excuse to use against me. It's now trying to find something else that it can say, to create another thing that it can say. Yeah. So I beat all of this. I won. Yep. I get to decide what's going to happen next. Alright, I'll check you niggas out later.